Sunday. I'm not entirely sure why I'm writing this on paper instead of my computer. It probably has something to do with the strange things I've noticed lately. It's not that I don't trust my computer. It's just that I need to organize my thoughts. I need to put down all the details somewhere they can't be altered. Somewhere I know what I write can't be erased or changed. Not that it's happened yet. Everything just feels like it's blending together here, and my foggy memory makes things blurry and weird. I'm starting to feel trapped in my little apartment. Maybe that's all it is. Of course, I had to pick the cheapest apartment, the only one in the basement. The lack of windows makes day and night slip by without much difference between them. I haven't been outside in a few days because I've been so caught up in my programming project. I guess I wanted to get it done. Anyone would feel strange after staring at a screen for hours, I get that. But I don't think that's the problem. I'm not sure when I first started feeling like something was wrong. I can't even define what's wrong. Maybe it's just that I haven't talked to anyone in a while. That was the first thing that struck me. Everyone I usually chat with while I code has been inactive or just not logged in. My messages to them go unanswered. The last email I got was from a friend who said we could talk when he got back from the store, and that was yesterday. I would have called him, but the reception down here sucks. Yeah, that's probably it. I just need to call someone. I think I'll go outside. Well, that didn't go so well. Right now I'm sitting here feeling dumber and dumber as the fear fades away. I saw myself in the mirror before I went out, but I didn't bother shaving the 2-day stubble I've got. I thought it was just going to be a quick phone call. I did change my shirt though, since it was around lunchtime and I figured I might run into someone I know. I didn't. I wish I had. I slowly opened my front door. I had this anxiety in my gut that I couldn't place, but I brushed it off as natural for someone who hadn't spoken to anyone in 2 days. The hallway outside was grey and shabby, even for a basement hallway. At one end, there's a heavy metal door leading to the building's boiler room. It was locked, of course. Next to it stood 2 old soda machines, one of which I bought a soda from the day I moved in. It had a 2-year-old expiration date. I don't think anyone in the building even knows those machines are there, and my stingy landlord doesn't care enough to restock them. I quietly closed my door and walked in the other direction, careful not to make any noise. Not that I know why, but it was kind of fun to follow the strange impulse that told me not to break the noise of the machine's low humming. I reached the stairwell and walked up to the building's entrance. Through the small square window in the big door, I could see outside, and as I approached, I was shocked. It was definitely not lunchtime. The dim city nightlight hung over the street outside, and in the distance I could see the traffic lights at the nearby intersection blinking yellow. The dull clouds hovering over the rooftops glowed with purple and black reflections from the city lights. Nothing moved except for a few trees along the sidewalk swaying in the wind. I remember shivering, even though it wasn't that cold. Maybe it was the wind. I could hear it faintly through the heavy metal door, and it was that kind of wind that only blows at night, constant, cold, and apart from the rhythmic rustling of the trees' dry leaves, completely silent. I decided not to go out. Instead, I fished out my phone and held it up to the door's little window to check the reception. The bars filled up completely, and I smiled. Time to hear another person's voice, I thought, relieved. It was such a strange thing, being scared of nothing. I shook my head and chuckled at myself. I pressed the speed dial button for my best friend Amy's number and held the phone to my ear. The call rang once, and then cut off. Nothing happened. I listened to the silence for 20 seconds, then hung up. Frowning, I checked that I did have reception, and there was nothing wrong with it. Just as I was about to call Amy again, the phone vibrated in my hand, catching me off guard. I answered. "Hello?" I said, immediately struggling to ignore the shock of hearing my own voice for the first time in a few days. I'd gotten used to only hearing the building's sounds, the fan in my computer, and the soda machines outside my door. At first there was no response, but eventually a voice came through. "Hello," said a man's voice about my age. "Who am I speaking to?" "John," I replied, confused. "Oh, sorry, wrong number," he said, and hung up. I slowly lowered the phone and leaned against the thick brick wall of the stairwell. That was strange. The number was still in my recent calls list, but I didn't recognize it. Before I could think more about it, the phone rang again, startling me once more. This time I made sure to check the number before answering, and it was another one I didn't recognize. I answered, but just held the phone to my ear without saying anything. Nothing more than the usual background noise of a phone line could be heard until a familiar voice broke the silence. "John?" said Amy. I exhaled. "Hey, it's you," I said. "Who else?" she replied. "Oh, you mean the number? I'm at a party on 7th Street and my phone died just as you called. This is someone else's phone." "Oh, okay," I said. "Where are you?" she asked. My eyes swept over the dull, whitewashed stone walls and the heavy metal door with its little window. "At home," I sighed, just feeling a bit cooped up. Didn't realize it was so late. "You should come to the party," she said with a laugh. "Nah, I don't feel like trekking to some weird place in the middle of the night," I said, looking out the window at the silent, windy street that I refused to admit scared me a little. "I think I'll just keep working or go to bed." "Bullshit," she replied. "I can come get you. You live close to 7th Street, right?" "Are you that drunk?" I asked playfully and laughed. "You know where I live?" "Yeah, of course," she said abruptly. "I guess I could walk there, huh?" "Yeah, if you want to waste half an hour," I said. "Okay," she continued. "Okay, I've got to go. Good luck with your work." I lowered the phone again and looked at the number that flashed when the call ended. The humming silence filled my ears once again. The two weird phone calls and the eerie street outside amplified my loneliness in the empty stairwell. I'm sure I've just watched too many horror movies, but suddenly I got the idea that something could have looked in through the door's window and seen me. Some sort of terrible monster that only moved in utter solitude, waiting for unsuspecting victims who had been isolated from other people. I knew the fear was irrational, but there was no one else there to judge me. So I jumped up, ran down the stairs and through the hallway to my door, which I shut behind me as fast as I could without making too much noise. Like I said, I felt a little dumb for being so scared of nothing, and the fear has already faded. Writing this down helps a lot. It makes me realize that nothing is actually wrong. It filters out half-formed thoughts and fears and leaves only the cold, hard facts. It's late. I got a phone call from someone who dialed the wrong number, and Amy's phone died, so she called me from another one. Nothing weird is happening, but there was something strange about our conversation. I know it could be the alcohol, but didn't she seem a little distant? Or was it? Yes, that's it. I didn't realize it until now, as I'm sitting here writing this. I knew this would help. She said she was at a party, but it was completely silent in the background. That could be because she stepped outside to call me. No, wait, it couldn't. I didn't hear the wind. I need to go outside and check if it's still windy. Monday, I forgot to finish writing yesterday. I have no idea what I expected to see after I ran up and pressed my nose against the little window in the heavy metal door. I feel so stupid. The fear from last night feels vague and illogical now. It's going to be nice to go out in the sun. I'll just check my emails, shower, shave, and then I can finally get out of here. Wait. I heard something. It was thunder. That sun and fresh air thing didn't happen. I went up the stairs only to be disappointed. Through the little window in the heavy metal door, all I could see was pouring rain. Only a dim and gloomy light filtered through the downpour, but at least I could tell it was daytime, though just a grey and soaking one. I stood there watching, hoping a lightning bolt would light up the dark street, but the rain was too steady, and the only things I could make out were vague and strange shapes distorted by the rain. Disappointed, I turned away, but since I didn't want to go back to my room right away, I went up the stairs instead. They ended at the 3rd floor, the top of the building. I looked out through the thick window glass that made up the stairwell's outer wall, but it was the kind of thick, curved glass that distorts light. I wouldn't have been able to see much anyway, thanks to the rain. I opened the door from the stairwell and walked down the hallway. The 10 or so thick wooden doors, long ago painted a blue color, were all closed. I kept my ears open as I passed by, but it was the middle of the day, so I wasn't too surprised that no other sounds than the rain could be heard. Standing there, in the dim hallway, with the sound of raindrops pattering against the facade outside, the doors suddenly felt, in a strange and fleeting impulse, like silent monoliths of granite, erected by some ancient, forgotten civilization to guard against forgotten dangers. A bolt of lightning struck outside, and in the light, I could swear the old blue-painted wood looked just like rough stone for a second. I laughed at myself for standing there and letting my imagination run wild. But then it struck me that if the light from the lightning could get in, there had to be a window somewhere. I vaguely remembered that there was an alcove in the middle of the hallway on the 3rd floor with a recessed window. Enthusiastic about the possibility of seeing through the rain and maybe spotting another person, I walked over to the alcove, and sure enough, there was a large window, not as thick as the others. Rain was pouring down here as well as in front of the window on the front door, but this window could be opened. I reached out to the latch, but hesitated. A strange feeling spread through my body, that I would see something terrible on the other side if I opened the window. Since everything has been so weird lately, I came up with a plan, and now I'm back in my room to get what I need to carry it out. I don't think it'll be particularly fruitful, really, but I'm bored. It's raining, and I'm going a little crazy. I came back here to get my webcam. The cord isn't long enough to reach the 3rd floor, so instead, I'm going to hide it between the 2 soda machines at the dark end of the basement hallway, run the cord along the wall and under my door, and tape it down with black electrical tape, so it blends in with the silicone strip that marks the edges of the hallway floor. I know how stupid this is, but I've got nothing better to do. Alright, nothing happened. I propped open the door between the hallway and the stairwell, steeled myself, threw open the heavy metal outer door, and ran like a maniac down the stairs, into my room, and slammed the door shut behind me. Then I sat and stared at what the webcam saw, which is the hallway outside my door and most of the stairwell. I'm watching right now, but I don't see anything interesting. I wish the camera had a different angle so I could see out through the front door. Oh, someone logged in. I had an old crappy webcam lying around in a closet that I could use to video chat with my friend. It felt good to see his face, but I couldn't really explain why I wanted to chat with him. He couldn't talk for very long anyway, and we didn't say anything of importance, but I feel much better now. My strange fear is almost gone. Everything would have felt great if it weren't for the fact that something felt odd, even with this conversation. I know I've written before that everything feels strange right now, but he was just so vague in his answers. I can't recall a single specific detail he mentioned. No names, no places, no events. But he did ask for my email so we could stay in touch. And look at that. I just got an email. I'm about to go out now. The email is from Amy, and she wants to meet up for dinner at our usual spot. I love pizza and haven't eaten anything but forgotten leftovers from my half-empty fridge in days, so this is going to be great. Again, I feel dumb about how I've been acting these past few days. I should destroy this diary when I get back. Oh, another email. I almost left the email unread and opened the door. It was from a friend I hadn't heard from in a while, and it was sent to a bunch of email addresses. Must have been everyone in his contact book. It had no subject, and it was brief. See with your own eyes, don't trust them. They. What the hell does that mean? I was disproportionately shocked by the email, and I've read it over and over again. It's a desperate email sent just as if something happened. It's clearly cut off in the middle without finishing the thought. Any other day I would have dismissed this as spam from a virus or something, but those words, see with your own eyes. I can't help but note what I've written over the past few days, think about what's happened, and realize that I haven't actually seen anyone else with my own eyes in a while. The video conversation was so weird, vague, and spooky now that I think about it. Was it spooky? Or is my fear just distorting my memory of it? My brain is playing with the sequence of events I've described here and pointing out the fact that no one I've talked to has been able to say anything I hadn't already shared with them. In that wrong number phone call, I gave out my name, after which Amy called with her weird phone call. My friend asked for my email, and I was the one who sent him a chat message first. And the first email came after our conversation. Oh my God, the phone call with Amy. I said on the phone that I was half an hour from 7th Street. They know I'm nearby. What am I going to do if they try to find me? Where is everyone else? Why haven't I heard or seen anyone else in days? No, this is crazy. This is totally insane. I need to calm down. This madness has to stop. I don't know what to believe. I ran around my apartment like a madman with the phone held up in every corner to see if I could get reception anywhere. Finally, in the farthest corner between the ceiling and wall in the tiny bathroom, I got one bar. I held my phone there and sent a text message to every number in my contact book. I didn't want to reveal anything about what I feared, so all I wrote was, "Have you seen anyone with your own eyes recently?" Then I just wanted a reply from anyone. I didn't care what, or if I embarrassed myself. I tried calling a few times, but I couldn't keep my head in the corner long enough, and if I took the phone down, I lost the signal completely. Then I remembered the computer and ran over to it to send chat messages to everyone who was online. Most were inactive or marked as away from their computers, and no one responded. My messages got more and more desperate, and I started telling people where I was and inviting them over on grounds that barely passed as reasonable. I just didn't care anymore. I just needed to see another person. I also turned my apartment upside down, searching for something I might have missed. Some way to contact the outside world without having to go outside the door. I know how crazy and unfounded it is, but what if? What if? I just had to be sure. I taped the phone to the ceiling just in case. Tuesday. The phone rang. Completely exhausted from yesterday's frantic efforts, I must have fallen asleep. I woke up to the sound of the phone ringing, ran into the bathroom, and stood on the toilet so I could talk into the taped-up phone. It was Amy, and I feel so much better now. She was really worried about me and had obviously been trying to reach me ever since we last talked. She's on her way over now, and yeah, she knows where I live without me having told her. I'm so embarrassed. I'm definitely throwing away this diary before anyone sees it. I don't even know why I'm writing it now. Maybe because it's the only place I've let my thoughts out. God, I don't even know how long. I look like hell too. I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror, and my eyes are sunken, my stubble is thicker, and I generally don't look well. My apartment is a mess, but I'm not going to clean it. Someone else needs to see how I've been living. These past few days have not been normal. I'm not the type to imagine things. I know I've been a victim of extreme coincidences. I must have missed seeing other people by seconds several times, and I happened to go out just when it was night, or when everyone was gone during the day. Everything is totally fine, I get that now. Plus, I found something in the closet last night that helped a lot. A small TV. I've got it on now, and it's playing in the background as I write this. The TV has always been an escape method for me, and it reminds me that there's a world outside these creepy stone walls. I'm glad Amy is the only one who responded after last night's manic pestering of everyone I could reach. She's been my best friend for years. She has no idea. But I count the day I first met her as one of the few genuinely happy moments in my life. I'm filled with joy when I think back to that warm summer day. It feels like a completely different reality than this dark, rainy, and lonely place. It felt like we spent days at that playground, way too old to be there, just talking to each other without doing anything special. Sometimes I can imagine that feeling again, and it reminds me that this damn hole isn't all that exists. Finally, someone's knocking at the door. I thought it was a bit strange that I didn't see her on the camera I hid between the two soda machines. It must have had to do with its poor placement since I couldn't see out the front door, I thought. I should have known. I should have known. After the knock on the door, I jokingly called out that I had a camera between the soda machines because I was embarrassed about how far my paranoia had dragged me. She walked over to the camera and looked down at it. I saw her smile and wave on my computer screen. "Hey," she said cheerfully, but with a strange look at the camera. "I know. It's really weird," I said to the microphone I have in my computer. "I've had a few weird days." "Definitely," she replied. "Open the door, John." I hesitated. How could I be sure? "Wait, just give me a second," I said into the microphone. "Tell me something about us. Just something that proves it's you." She gave the camera another strange look. Okay, she said slowly, thinking. "We met at a playground even though we were both way too old to be there." I sighed deeply as the sense of reality returned and the fear faded. God, how silly I'd been. Of course it was Amy. That day existed nowhere but in my memory. I'd never even mentioned it to anyone. Not because it was embarrassing or anything, but because it gave me a nostalgic feeling of holding on to a secret. If some mysterious force was trying to trick me, as I feared, it couldn't possibly have known about that day. "Haha, okay, I'll explain everything," I said. "Be right there." I ran into the bathroom to fix my hair as best I could. I looked like hell, but she would understand. With a grin over how I'd been acting and how messy my room was, I walked over to the door, put my hand on the doorknob, and gave the chaos one last look. So ridiculous, I thought. My eyes swept over the half-eaten food on the floor, the overflowing trash can, and the bed I had overturned in the search for, well, God knows what. I turned halfway toward the door to open it, but first my gaze fell on one last thing. The old webcam, the one I had used for my strange video chat with that friend. Its dark, black shape lay sprawled over the desk, with the lens facing the spot where this diary lay. A terrible feeling of dread crept into me as I realized that if someone could see through that camera, they could have seen what I wrote in it the day before. I asked her to tell me one thing, just one thing about us, and she chose the one I didn't think anyone else knew. But they did. They knew. They've been watching me this whole time. I didn't open the door. I screamed. I screamed in wild terror, threw the camera on the floor and stomped on it. The door shook and someone yanked at the doorknob, but I didn't hear Amy's voice through it. The basement door was built to keep out drafts. Was it too thick? Or was Amy not out there? What else could have been trying to get in, if not her? What the hell was out there? I saw her on the computer screen through the camera. I heard her voice, but was it real? How can I know that? She's gone now. I screamed and called for help. I pushed everything I have in the apartment into a pile in front of the door. Friday. At least I think it's Friday. I've smashed everything electronic. I smashed the computer to bits. Everything on it could have been accessed by others, or worse, altered by them. I'm a programmer. I know this stuff. All the information I've given out since this started, my name, my email, where I am, I didn't get any of it back until I gave it out myself. I've gone over it again and again. I've been swinging between terror and wild disbelief. Sometimes I'm completely convinced that some kind of supernatural entity has decided to lure me outside, just like it did in the beginning, in that phone call with Amy, when she asked me to open the door and go out. I go over it in my head, over and over. From one perspective, I've acted like a madman, and all of this is just the result of a bunch of freak coincidences. That I managed to go out at the wrong time. That I never saw another person by pure bad luck. That I got a spam email at exactly the wrong time. But the other perspective is that these freak coincidences are exactly what has kept me safe from whatever it is that's out there hunting me. I can't stop thinking that I never actually opened that window on the 3rd floor. I didn't open the front door until that stupid idea with the hidden camera. But even then, I ran, lightning fast back into my room and shut the door behind me. Since then, I haven't opened the door. Whatever's out there, if there is anything, hasn't shown itself inside the house until I opened the front door. Maybe it was somewhere else first to capture everyone else. And then it waited for me. Until I revealed my existence by trying to call Amy. It didn't work, but then it called back and asked for my name. I'm literally overwhelmed with fear every time I try to piece together all the parts of this nightmare. The email, short and cut off. Did it come from someone trying to make me aware of what's happening? A real friend who actually wanted to warn me about what was happening before it struck? See with your own eyes, don't trust them. Exactly the things I've been so suspicious about. It could have total control over everything electronic and use that to influence me. So I would be tricked into going outside. Why can't it come in on its own? It knocked on the door, so it must be able to manifest physically. The door. The image of the doors on the third floor as guarding monoliths comes up every time I trace my thoughts backward. If there's some kind of ghostly entity out there trying to lure me out, maybe it can't go through doors. I'm trying to think of all the books I've read and movies I've seen to find a possible explanation. Doors have always been a significant focal point in human imagination, seen as portals or spaces of special significance. Or maybe the door is just too thick. I can't break through any of the doors in this building myself, least of all the thick basement doors. Besides this, the real question is why it even wants me. If it just wanted to kill me, there are plenty of ways to do that, including letting me starve to death. What if it doesn't want to kill me? What if it has a worse fate prepared for me? Oh my God, what am I supposed to do to escape this nightmare? And now there's knocking on the door again. I told the people on the other side of the door that I needed to think for a minute, and that I would come out after that. I'm writing this to buy time to figure out what to do. This time at least, I heard their voices. My paranoia, and yes, I admit that I'm paranoid, has got me thinking about all the ways their voices could have been faked. It could be speakers set up out there, simulating human voices. Why did it take them 3 days to get here? Amy is supposedly out there, with 2 cops and a psychiatrist. Maybe it took 3 days to figure out what to say to me. That psychiatrist could be pretty convincing if I decided to believe that this was all just a big misunderstanding and not something evil trying to get me to open the door. The psychiatrist's voice sounded experienced, authoritative, yet caring. I liked it, and I'm desperate to see someone with my own eyes. He said I had something called Cyberpsychosis and that I was suffering from a nationwide epidemic where thousands of people had broken down after a sensational email somehow slipped through. I swear he said it slipped through. I think he meant it slipped through spam filters, but I also have strong suspicions that it was that ghostly entity that accidentally let something slip. He said I was part of a wave of emerging behavior, and that many others felt the same fear even though we never communicated with each other. That would explain the strange email I got about seeing things with my own eyes. I didn't get the original email that triggered the epidemic, but a spin-off of it from a friend who also broke down and tried to warn everyone he knew about his paranoid fear. That's how the problem spread, the psychiatrist said. That I could have spread it further myself, with my texts and chat messages to everyone I know. Someone who got those messages might be sitting at home collapsing right now, because they interpreted it as wildly as I've interpreted the attempts at contact that have reached me. The psychiatrist said he didn't want to lose another one, that people like me are intelligent, and that's why we're drawn in. We're so good at connecting events to each other that we do it even when there's no connection. He said it's so easy to get caught up in paranoia in our hectic world, an ever-changing place where less and less of our interaction happens physically. I have to say that his explanation is brilliant. It clears up everything in a convenient way. It clears up everything perfectly, actually. I have every reason now to shake off my nightmarish fear that some entity, creature, or monster out there is trying to get me to open the door so it can capture me and subject me to a fate worse than death. It would be stupid to, after an explanation as good as that, stay in here and starve to death just to defy a being that's captured everyone else. It would be stupid to, after an explanation as good as that, believe that I'm the last one left in a safe basement room in an empty world, taunting some unthinkable demon. It's such a perfect explanation for every weird thing I've noticed or heard, and I have every reason in the world to let go of the fear and go open the door. Which is exactly why I'm not going to do it. How can I be sure? How can I know for sure what's real and what's an illusion? All these damn things with their wires and signals coming from invisible sources. They're not real, I can't be sure of them. Signals through a camera, fake videos, deceptive phone calls and emails. Even the TV, lying broken on the floor. How can I know for sure that it was real? It's just signals, waves, light. The door. It's pounding on the door again. It's trying to get in. What insane creations is it using to manipulate the door so that it sounds exactly like people attacking its heavy wood? At least now I'll finally get to see it with my own eyes. There's nothing left in here that it could deceive me with, because I've destroyed everything. It can't trick my own eyes, can it? See with your own eyes and don't trust them, Wait. Was that desperate email actually trying to warn me not to trust my own eyes? Oh my God, what's the difference between a camera and my eyes? They both convert light into electronic signals. The same thing. I mustn't let myself be fooled. I have to be sure. I have to be sure. Unknown date. I calmly and quietly asked for paper and a pen day in and day out, until it finally gave up and let me have them. Not that it makes any difference. What does it think I'm going to do? Gouge out my eyes again? The bandages feel like a part of me now. The pain is gone. I guess this is one of my last chances to write legibly since, without being able to see, I'll soon forget the motions one makes. This writing is a bit self-indulgent. A relic from another time, unique because I know everyone else who used to populate the world is now dead, or worse. I sit against the padded wall day after day. The entity feeds me and gives me water. It disguises itself as a kind nurse or an arrogant doctor. I think it knows my hearing has become remarkably better now that I live in darkness. It plays out small conversations in the hallway outside the door, just in case I might overhear. One of the nurses is supposed to have a baby soon. One of the doctors lost his wife in a car accident. Nothing makes any difference because nothing is true. Nothing can touch me, not like she can. That's the worst part, the thing I can barely handle. The entity comes to me, pretending to be Amy. It does a perfect imitation. It sounds and feels exactly like Amy, even producing a decent copy of a tear that it lets me feel on its lifelike cheek. When it first dragged me in here, it said all the things I wanted to hear. It said that she loved me, that she had always loved me, that she didn't understand why I had done this, but that we could still be together if I just stopped insisting on believing that I was being deceived. It wanted, no, it needed me to believe that she was real. I almost fell for it, I really did. I doubted myself until the very end, but finally everything was too perfect, too flawless, too real. The fake Amy came here every day, and then every week, and then it stopped coming altogether. But I don't think the entity plans to give up. I think its endurance contest is just another cunning trick. I'm going to resist for the rest of my life if I have to. I don't know what's happened to the rest of the world. But I know that this entity needs me to be fooled by its lies. And if it needs that, then maybe, just maybe, I can be an obstacle to its plans. Maybe Amy is still alive somewhere out there, unharmed as long as I keep resisting. I hold on, letting hope live as I sit here rocking back and forth to pass the time. I'll never give up. I'll never break down. I am, a hero.